Hearing that the female CEO was planning to drain my sister's blood to save that green tea male lead, I immediately rushed to the hospital, kicking down the main door. Seeing that my sister had lost too much blood and was about to faint, I instantly flew into a rage. A group of doctors all turned to look at the door. A teenager dressed in black stood there, exuding an aura even scarier than Lu Zijiao, the department head. Before he could open his mouth to kick me out, I kicked him, sending him flying. The nurse drawing blood stared wide-eyed, instinctively tightening her grip on the syringe, but a cracking sound came from the back of her wrist, and a scream echoed through the blood-drawing room. I quickly pulled out the needle and attached a new blood bag to my sister's veins. My sister weakly opened her eyes and softly called out, "Brother." My hand paused for a moment, then gently stroked her head. My 3 confidants stood at the door, stunned, never having seen the boss with such an expression. Suddenly, a dozen bodyguards surrounded the blood-drawing room. Lu Zijiao, with a gloomy face, walked in. Seeing the blood flowing backward, her complexion immediately turned green. "Looks like I've been too lenient lately." She coldly ordered the bodyguard captain to deal with us, but before they could act, my 3 men took them all down in an instant. Lu Zijiao narrowed her eyes, displaying arrogance. "I earned 50 million. My 3 men burst into scornful laughter. Dasha flipped the small knife in her hand. "You're not worthy." Lu Zijiao unexpectedly attacked but was slashed by Dasha. Dasha sneered, "You want to attack me with this?" Lu Zijiao gritted her teeth. "Just who are you people?" Dasha tied her up. "You're not high level enough to know what the boss is going to do." I chuckled. "Didn't you want to save your fiancé? Call him here." Half a minute later, a yen phone was tossed in like garbage. I glanced at him. "This is your fiancé? I thought he'd be something amazing. What a disappointment." Lu Zijiao's eyes were full of murderous intent. "You're seeking death." I smiled coldly. I like playing with the limits. I gestured to Dasha to force him to kneel. Lu Zijiao was forced to kneel as well. I threw him an empty blood bag. "Didn't you want to save someone? Use your blood." Dasha quickly started drawing blood. Yan Feng tried to resist but immediately received a slap to the face. Lu Zijiao stared wide-eyed as her blood flowed out nonstop. I instructed Dasha, "Her fiancé needs blood, right? Saving people is more important." Dasha approached Yan Feng. Lu Zijiao completely panicked. She screamed, "You wouldn't dare." Dasha smiled. "Nothing the boss tells me to do is too daring." Yan Feng frantically crawled backward. "No, our blood types aren't compatible. Transfusion will kill me." Dasha grabbed his arm, preventing him from moving, and started the transfusion. Lu Zijiao's face turned red as she shouted, "Let him go. If anything happens to him, you won't survive either." I shrugged and smiled faintly. "Since you put it that way, I really can't let you live today." Lu Zijiao trembled. "The consequences of my death are something you can't bear." "Is that so?" My smile deepened. "I want to see who I can't kill." I threw the largest blood bag on the ground and continued drawing until all the blood was gone. When Kim inserted the needle, Yan Feng collapsed, screaming, "Save me. I don't want to die." At that moment, a woman with an overwhelming aura suddenly appeared at the door. Her eyes were as sharp as knives, and the entire room instantly fell silent. The real battle was about to begin. Bringing more than a dozen bodyguards, she appeared at the door. "Aunt!" Lu Zijiao excitedly cried. "Yan Feng, don't be afraid." Yan Feng grasped at the lifeline. "Aunt, save me. They're transfusing me with the wrong blood." Lu Zian coldly swept her eyes around the room, then turned to me and ordered, "Release them." I calmly asked, "And if I say no?" Lu Zian's expression immediately darkened. She walked straight towards me. When she was only 3 meters away from me, a silver needle shot out, piercing her chest. I coldly said, "I only need these 2 lives. Leave now, and I might let it go. But if you scare my sister, the entire Lu family will be buried with you. Murderous intent flashed in Lu Ziyan's eyes. In Yun City, daring to oppose the Lu family, you're the first. I sneered. Then I want to see what the consequences are. Yan Feng had been transfused with half a bag of blood, his face contorted in pain. Aunt, save me. Lu Ziyan hesitated for a moment, finally lowering her voice. Release them. You can name your conditions. I shook my head and chuckled softly. Too late. Lu Ziyan angrily shouted, you don't know what's good for you. Her wrist flicked, and 2 silver needles caused her to collapse. Then dozens of silver needles shot out simultaneously, and the bodyguards all fell to the ground. Seeing the 2 Lu women lying limp on the ground, Yan Feng suddenly shouted, it's all Lu Zijiao's fault. I tried to stop her. Lu Zijiao stared in disbelief. I looked at him with interest. See? You still think I'm wrong to call him scum? Yan Feng nodded frantically. Right. I'm garbage. Please spare me. He thought I would spare him. I smiled coldly. Then I can't spare you even more. Yan Feng's face turned pale. He still struggled. Killing is against the law. If I die, you'll pay for it too. My eyes were as cold as ice. Did you think about the law when you were draining my sister's blood? Suddenly, a deep, dignified female voice rang out outside the door. Big words indeed. A female inspector in her 40s led people in. Seeing the corpses of the bodyguards on the ground, her expression immediately changed. Yan Feng found another lifeline. Chief Zhang, he wants to kill me. Shoot him. Chief Zhang raised her gun, aiming it straight at my head. Lu Ziyan immediately shouted, kill him, and I'll bear the consequences. I smiled faintly. Zhang Lin, last year when I left Yun City, you were just a prison guard. Now you've been promoted? Zhang Lin trembled, her hand holding the gun unsteady. You're back? She turned her head and said to Lu Ziyan in a low voice, head of the Lu family, I can't handle this. You should negotiate. Lu Ziyan looked at me in astonishment, finally lowering her voice. Release Si Jiao and Yan Feng. The Lu family is willing to pay any price. I coldly replied, wiping out your family only takes me a day. Today, those 2 must die. Lu Ziyan gritted her teeth, threatening, Si Jiao's mother is a first-level leader in the military. Do you dare touch her daughter? I thought for a moment. I'll give her mother some face for fighting for the country. I can spare Lu Zijiao's life. Lu Ziyan had just breathed a sigh of relief when she heard me continue, but she can't escape punishment. Break both her legs. Cracking sounds echoed, and Lu Zijiao screamed. I turned and left, leaving Yan Feng's corpse behind. Give me an explanation from the Lu family within 3 days, or I'll personally come to your door to demand it. After Lu Zijiao was dragged away, Chief Zhang hesitated and helped Lu Ziyan up. Lu Ziyan coldly said, meet me tomorrow at the foot of Qingyun Peak. I'll give you an explanation and a big gift. I raised my eyebrows. Alright, but let me tell you first, if the gift disappoints me, no matter how high-ranking someone in the Lu family is, I'll make you pay. The way Lu Ziyan looked at me was like looking at a dead man. The doctors and nurses around trembled. Dasha asked me, what do we do with the rest? Kill them? I shook my head. Killing people in China makes things too big. It'll get me locked up. I picked my sister up, gently saying, then break their arms and legs and throw them out. Amidst the screams, I went to the next room and gently placed my sister on the bed. A subordinate quickly entered. Boss, we found the item. It's with the Li family. In the hands of the Li family. I laughed. How coincidental. Even without the treasure, I was planning to visit the Li family. If it wasn't for the old lady of the Li family forcing the original owner to marry the old lady of the Lu family, I wouldn't have been forced to be reborn in this body. I left the ward and headed to the Li family. In the banquet hall of the Li family, the family head cheerfully ran to the old man, General Si Chi is coming soon. The old man of the Li family is trembling until the Buddhist beads are falling. Prepare the highest level banquet, call all the relatives here, whoever can hold General Siqi's feet. I will share 1/10 of the assets of the Li family. The family head nodded again, and the old man was moved and trembling. God bless the Li family. Soon, the family head hurried back to report, Father, everything is ready, but the eldest sister-in-law is not at home. The old man slammed his hand on the handrail. Didn't I tell her not to go out? The family head reported, I heard that her son's term of imprisonment has expired today, and I went to the prison gate to wait early in the morning. The old man's eyes flashed with a ray of cruelty. Catch him back. Send someone to guard the gate of the prison camp, and if you see that wild kid, drag him back here immediately for me to deal with in person. Half an hour later, the Li family lined up neatly outside the gate. Li Xiang whispered to his mother, Tang Qi, will General Siqi really come? What else? When his confidant came to report the news, my mother witnessed it with her own eyes. Tang Qi lowered her voice, you have to perform well, if you can stick to General Siqi. Li Xiang suddenly interrupted, how old is he? Don't tell me it's an ugly old man? 28 years old, school-level beauty. Tang Qi widened her eyes, talking when a military vehicle rushed over. When the car door opened, everyone's smile stiffened. The old man was the first to recognize me. Beast, why is it you? I looked around and finally looked straight at him. I'm back, aren't you welcoming? Tang Qi immediately jumped out, murderer. If it wasn't for you killing the old lady Jiang, the Li family would have been a top family by now. Li Xiang echoed, Grandpa told you to serve Grandma Jiang to save you face, so a waste like you should have committed suicide in prison. As he spoke, he took out a few banknotes and threw them at my feet. Kneel down, pick up the money and get out. The words were not finished, bang. Li Xiang flew straight 3 meters away, and the whole hall was silent. Tang Qi shouted and rushed to hug her son. The old man was so angry that he trembled. Where are the people? Beat this beast to death for me. The old man of the Li family roared. Before he could finish speaking, a young male voice sounded, no need for more, that's the bodyguard of the army. Siqi stepped out of the car and walked in leisurely. The old man of the Li family was immediately like a duck pinched by the neck, his face flushed red. He didn't understand why Siqi was with me, but he quickly hid his surprise and squeezed out a forced smile. General Siqi, I'm Grandpa Ru of Guchen, what I just said was all for his own good. I laughed coldly, for my good, then I don't mind paying you back a little. I moved forward towards him, with each step his face became paler. The first slap rang out, 3 teeth flew out. This slap was for greed, the second slap followed, this one was for those who don't know how to respect the elderly. 9 slaps in a row, the old man's mouth was full of blood and sat on the ground, mumbling and cursing, Beast, I'm your grandfather. Suddenly a trembling voice sounded, Guchen. I turned my head back, a thin woman with tears in her eyes, my mother called softly. The mother trembled and stepped forward, but when she saw the old man's vicious eyes, she immediately held my hand, take it away, Mom will take you away from here. The old man showed a vicious smile, break his legs for me, or the 2 mothers and sons get out of the Li family. My mother's face turned pale and she was about to kneel down and beg, but I had already supported her. Mom doesn't need to beg him. When the old man heard this, his face was slightly heavy, but remembering that I used to be timid and weak, and I just got out of prison and came back here to eat and live, he confidently looked at my mother and ordered, you are going to deal with your son, I order you to break his legs, otherwise both mothers and sons will be kicked out of the Li family. Hearing this, my mother trembled. I just got out of prison, and she still hoped that I could go to the academy to start a new life, but I had a criminal record and no one hired me, and the younger sister had to take care of her. If she was kicked out of the Li family, the 3 mothers and sons would definitely not survive. Thinking of the old man's cruelty, my mother immediately let go of my hand and knelt down in front of the old man. Dad, I was wrong, punish me whatever you want, Guchen still has a future ahead, please spare him. She was about to kowtow to beg for forgiveness, but before she could kneel down completely, I had already helped her up, and coldly glanced at the crowd of the Li family. We should have left a long time ago, As for breaking my legs, I sneered and snapped my fingers, a pop and two crisp cracks, the bones of the old man's knees shattered. The screams of the slaughtered pigs rang out. "Ah, beast, what are you doing to your grandfather?" I coldly replied, "Didn't you want to break your legs? Broken is broken, what's the difference between who's broken?" The second aunt, Tang Chi, was the first to react and pointed at my face. "Gu Chen, he is your uncle." Li Xiang hugged his face and chimed in, "Cousin, Grandpa said a little too harshly, but it was for your own good." The crowd of the Li family immediately clamored and accused him of being ungrateful and shameless. "Get out of the Li family. How can you survive without the Li family's kind of unfilial grandson?" Every word was like a dog barking by the ear. I just stood still, my eyes contemptuously swept over everyone. The old man of the Li family suddenly turned to look at Si Chi, who was standing in the corner, crying and shouting, "General Si Chi, you see it, this beast wants to kill his grandfather." Si Chi was about to reduce her presence when she heard her face stiff. Even if she wasn't a real uncle, she would still have to go to jail for breaking her legs. The old man became more and more excited, must be sentenced to life imprisonment or even death. The stronger the spirit she heard, the faster her heart beat. I turned my head and smiled faintly. "Si Chi, have you heard clearly?" The old man leaned on his crutches and shouted angrily, "How dare you call the name of General Si Chi? Immediately catch him." Si Chi took a deep breath and suddenly shouted loudly, "Where are the people?" The people of the Li family revealed a harmonious look, and my mother hurried out to stand in front of me. "Please, I will handle the boy, I will help my mother to the car," and when I closed the door, I heard the flattering voice of the second aunt, "General Si Chi, don't be angry, please come in." With a pop, she was kicked out by Si Chi, and all the special forces immediately controlled all the people of the Li family. Si Chi suddenly raised her hand and saluted me solemnly. "Lieutenant General Gu, please give instructions." The hall was dead, and the old man's eyes widened. "What's up? What did he call him?" I stepped in front of him. "Who just said to execute me?" The old man went crazy like hell. "Impossible. I'm your grandfather. I ordered you to release people immediately." Bang! I waved my hand and slapped him, and the old man was knocked to the ground and rolled around. "Ordering me? Are you worthy?" Looking at the old man lying on the ground, I sneered, "Now I know you're scared?" I didn't expect the day when I was sent to prison that year. The old man snorted coldly and glanced at me, then turned to Si Chi and flattered, "General Si Chi, he is just an illegitimate child and is not worthy of you. Our Li family has many better boys." Li Xiang immediately interjected, "General Si Chi, I love you at first sight, I don't know if you can give me a chance." Si Chi stood there stiffly, and the guards also looked at each other, almost laughing. This family really has a problem with their brains. I said coldly, "Enough, don't act anymore, someone like you has no time to look at General Si Chi." I turned to the guard and said, "Take them all to the Yunqing prison, and the crime is insulting high-ranking military officers." The old man panicked, "General Si Chi, we didn't dare to offend you. This illegitimate child is not qualified to represent the army." Seeing that Si Chi was still silent, the old man immediately changed his tone, "We are willing to offer the family heirloom to atone for our sins." I raised my eyebrows. Oh, I didn't expect things to be so simple. I gestured to pause. It's true that it wasn't a waste of effort to come here, but the people of the Li family immediately exploded. "No. That is the hope of the Li family. A man in prison does not hand it over." The old man roared angrily, "Stupid. Prison is a place to kill people. Do you want the life of this old man?" He turned to Si Chi and asked his son to take the treasure. Very quickly, the head of the Li family brought a white jade box, his face full of reluctance. "No one in my family can use this treasure. I hope the general can realize its value." Si Chi took the box and handed it directly to me. Inside, a red card with a crystal-like structure lay quietly, and in the middle of the card was engraved a symbol of a large fire character. Everyone held their breath. This is the legendary spirit card, and there are no more than 10 people in the whole of China who own the spirit card, and each of them is a national pillar. I tried to suppress my excitement and took the card, and I knew the answer. My eyes swept over everyone else in the Lee family, and in the end, even if I was unwilling, I had to accept a fact. The people of the Lee family were completely unaware that the spirit card had been sealed, and even more unable to find a way to unseal it. The old man of the Lee family glanced at me uncomfortably, but because he was in awe of Si-Chi, he didn't dare to speak, and he said to Si-Chi hesitantly, "General Si-Chi, this card is considered a gift from the Lee family to you, can you spare us?" Si-Chi was still looking at me and did not dare to answer. In the expectant eyes of the old man of the Lee family, I said indifferently, "You should thank the ancestors of the Lee family, otherwise no one in the entire Lee family would escape the prison." I immediately ordered dash. Rewritten passage. Hearing that the head bitch at Sterling Industries, Veronica Sterling, was planning to bleed my sister dry to save that metrosexual gigolo, Chad, I went ballistic. I stormed into St. Luke's, kicking the ER doors open. Seeing my sister, Lily, pale as a ghost and hooked up to tubes, I saw red. Doctors scrambled out of the way as I stood there, my aura radiating more menace than even Dr. Mallory, the head of hematology. Before he could tell me to get the hell out, I delivered a swift kick to his ass, sending him sprawling. The nurse drawing Lily's blood gaped, instinctively squeezing the syringe, but then there was a crack and a yelp as I broke her wrist. Yanking the needle out, I slapped a new blood bag onto Lily's foreline. Lily's eyelids fluttered open. "Jake," she whispered. My hand froze for a second, then I gently brushed her hair back from her face. My boys, Tony, Vinny, and Guido, were standing guard at the door, looking stunned. They'd never seen me so soft. Suddenly, a gaggle of security guards swarmed the room. Veronica Sterling, looking like she'd just stepped out of a magazine, marched in. Seeing the blood flowing back into the bag, she hissed, "Looks like I've been too damn nice lately." She snapped her fingers at the head of security, but before they could even twitch, Tony, Vinny, and Guido had them on the ground, writhing. Veronica's eyes narrowed. "I'm a Fortune 500 CEO, you know." Vinny snorted, flipping a switchblade. "You're nobody." Veronica lunged, but Guido intercepted, landing a perfect cross. "You want to fight me with that manicured bullshit?" she spat. Veronica snarled. "Who the hell are you people?" Guido calmly tied her up with some medical tape. "You're not cleared to know what Mr. Jake is going to do." I chuckled. "You want to save your pretty boy, right? Call him in." 30 seconds later, Chad was thrown into the room like a sack of garbage. I gave him a once-over. "This is it?" The guy's about as exciting as a bowl of oatmeal. Veronica's eyes burned with hatred. "You're dead." I just smirked. "I live for danger, honey." I nodded to Tony. He and Vinny forced Chad to his knees. Veronica screamed and was pulled to kneel as well. I tossed Chad an empty blood bag. "Need a transfusion, right? Time to pay the piper." Tony quickly jammed a needle into Chad's arm. Veronica shrieked as she watched the blood flow out of Chad's arm, into the bag. I instructed Vinny, she wanted to save her boy toy. "Saving lives is important, Vinny. Transfer her blood." Vinny swaggered over to Chad. Veronica went full meltdown. "Don't you dare. If anything happens to him, you're all finished." I just shrugged. "Well, you put it that way, guess we can't let you go today." Veronica started trembling. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." "Oh, I think I do," I said, my smile turning cold. "And I'm about to find out who I can't kill." I tossed the biggest blood bag I could find on the floor and kept draining blood. When Tony was done with Chad, he moved on to Veronica. Veronica was losing it at that point. She started saying her blood wasn't compatible to Chad's, so she wouldn't want to kill him. He screamed to stop. She was his fiancée. Veronica got transfused. Right on cue, the doors exploded open, and a woman in a power suit strode in, followed by a dozen armed men. The room went dead silent. "Aunt!" Veronica shrieked, relief flooding her face. "Chad's dying. They're transfusing him with the wrong blood." Aunt Diana's eyes, sharp as ice picks, swept over the scene. She fixed her gaze on me. Let them go. Now. And if I don't feel like it? I asked, keeping my voice level. Diana Sterling's face hardened. She advanced towards me, stopping a few feet away. In this city, you don't mess with the Sterlings, you hear me? I just smirked. I guess we'll find out what happens, then. Chad had now received what felt like an endless bag of wrong blood, and was screaming and moaning. Veronica, help. I can't breathe. Diana Sterling hesitated, then lowered her voice, barely audible over the chaos. Release them and state your terms. I shook my head. Too late for terms. Diana's face twisted with fury. You think you can get away with this? You don't know who you're up against. With lightning speed, she whipped out a silver stiletto and lunged for my throat. I smirked and sidestepped, grabbed her wrist, and twisted. She shrieked and dropped the knife. I just need these 2 dead bodies. Just let me have it, and I can let you guys walk away. The dozen bodyguards that just walked in quickly ran up to attack me at once. I wasn't worried, my boys would take care of them. Then the doors to the emergency room opened again and a woman in a power suit strode in, followed by a dozen armed men. The room went dead silent. Diana Sterling's eyes narrowed and she raised her hand. I just need you 2 to step aside. I'll take care of him. I laughed. Guess it can't be that simple. I fought back quickly and efficiently, moving like a ghost, landing blows with precision. The air crackled with tension as I disarmed the bodyguards with ease. Then with another quick swipe I grabbed 2 stiletto knives off of the guards and threw them with immense precision into each of the Sterling women's legs. I knew that would slow them down. Seeing her aunt and Veronica on the ground in pain, Chad saw his chance. He started scrambling to get out of the way. It's all her fault, he whined. She made me do it. I swear. Veronica glared at him, betrayal flashing in her eyes. I looked at Chad with disgust. Still think I was wrong about him? Vinny and Guido dragged Veronica and Chad away, and then quickly followed me. What do we do with these guys, Jake? Tony said, motioning with his head back to the emergency room. Leave them where they lie, they ain't worth my time. I turned to my sister, we good? Yeah, Jake. Thanks. On the way out I was told to talk to a man and said. Find out who owns this place, get me his name. Make them an offer they can't refuse. Tell him to make it very clear that the Sterling's family do not exist. Tony, tell the guy he needs to make it an accident, I hate messes. I heard from someone I had to meet a doctor, my boys, and I went to his office a few blocks over. Hey doc, I heard you got something I need, can you tell me where it is? The doctor began sweating. I don't know what you're talking about, kid. Don't bullshit me, old man. I heard you were going to sell my baby sister's soul to the Sterlings, and I'm gonna need that item to bring her back. And I don't like what those folks are gonna do with it, so, yeah, let's just say you have a very limited time to give that back. Tony slammed his fist on the desk right next to the doctor's ear. The doctor screamed and got out the locked safe key. And said, I think I know which item you were talking about, so I can find that right now. I laughed and said, that's what I like to hear, be quick about it. I looked through the item and said, thanks doc, have a nice day. Then I left with the item and took it back to my baby sis so she could recover more peacefully. Direct the Black Ops. The old man of the Li family, Tang Chi, and Li Xiang, charged with high treason against the Chinese military, will be handled according to law. As for the rest, house arrest until I've left Yun City. I don't want to see your ugly faces again. Both the old man and the rest of the Li family froze, stunned. In China, treason against the military is an insult to the nation. This crime alone was enough to rot in jail. As for the entire family being under house arrest, it would mean the near bankruptcy of the Li conglomerate. The old man of the Li family held, enraged, false accusations. This son of a bitch is lying. Then, he turned to Chang Siki, pleading, General Chang, I'm an old man, and I've never said a cross word to you in my life. Upon hearing that, seeing as it was, Very pitiful to see the Li family like this. She tried to do something for them. Chang Siki's gaze towards the old man of the Li family was filled with pity. When the Li family met her gaze, their hearts felt as though they were being crushed. Immediately after, Chang Siki quietly looked at everyone, before turning to the old man. Are you sure you don't already know who the person you just kicked out is? He's the youngest general in the Chinese military. Chang Siki's words were like a bomb dropped on everyone's heads. In that moment, everyone was completely stunned. In their impression, I was nothing more than someone too cowardly to speak up, a useless person who'd been in prison. To see me as somebody they could only look up to. They couldn't process it. I calmly swept my eyes across everyone before speaking to Chang Siki. What's the point of speaking with them? Chang Siki's heart skipped a beat. She immediately waved her hand, and with a loud shout, the Black Ops quickly moved to subdue the people of the Li family. In the end, the old man and the entire Li family had to accept it. The person they once despised was now a high-ranking general. Regret surged through them. A high-ranking general under the age of 20 would surely be among the most powerful people in China. Even if I were only a rank 1 general, the lowest level, it would be enough to raise the Li family to new heights. Unfortunately, they were blind and missed their opportunity to change their fate. Worse, they had pushed the Li family into hell. The shock was too much. The old man and the rest of the Li family wanted to die. But their regret was quickly replaced by fear. The old man looked at me, his eyes filled with panic. Gu Chen, I was wrong. I apologize. I raised you, please forgive me, and forgive the entire Li family. I looked at him like he was some cheap clown performing. When I saw the guards preparing to drag him away, I didn't even try to stop them. Seeing that, the old man immediately changed his tune and howled, "Beast! I'm your grandfather. Daring to put me in prison is the most unfilial thing. Heaven won't forgive you." I still stood there coldly, not budging, and not letting any of his words into my heart. The old man of the Li family was in a state of utter panic, looking at me like I was the Grim Reaper. It was too late, unfortunately. Suddenly, the old man of the Li family seemed to remember something and shrieked at me, "The Sterling generals are now rank 3 generals. And the old lady Zhang died because of you. If he finds out you're out of prison, he definitely won't let you go. Let me go and I'll help you beg him." Hearing that, Chang Siki revealed a look of clear mockery. Even though I was very young, my war accomplishments were unmatched across China. Despite she and the Sterling generals both being rank 3, if they went head-to-head, Sterling would be dead. Not to mention, the higher-ups wanted to promote me again, pushing me to even greater heights. Just then, Chang Siki's government phone began ringing. Seeing the name of the caller, her breath became shaky. She carefully answered the phone, and after hearing the voice on the other end, her eyes showed me even more respect and veneration. The powerful individual at the pinnacle of the military was flying from D City to the Yunqing army, just to see me, because of that vow from back then. Chang Siki hung up the phone, took a deep breath to regain composure, and hurriedly saluted me before almost flying out to the army. I put Mom on the car and went to the hospital where Lily was, and before I had a chance, had learned the following facts and planned everything. She told me, I found out from an informant that the current plan to use a high-ranking member of Sterling is trying to locate your current position, and is moving forces in order to attack. It looks like they put a hit on you, but the army is moving forces to defend you. Do you want me to increase security? I responded no. If they are looking for war, war it will be. If they are looking for my family, there will be hell to pay, thanks. I'll contact you when ready. Be safe. But at the moment, Li Xiang, who had been escorted to prison, had taken advantage of the chaos to contact the Sterlings. Sterling's helicopter was able to land as well as come for the transport of said person. The most powerful person in the 3 largest pillars of the Chinese military, emanated an aura that made people tremble. Chang Siki immediately saluted, all formalities, with no further conversation. The general is under my protection, it will be handled as such. But at the moment, Li Xiang, who had been escorted to prison, had taken advantage of the chaos to contact the Sterlings. Chong Siki silently clicked her tongue to herself. The position that so many people dreamed of, but had been rejected by the big boss 3 times. The gap was truly like the distance between heaven and earth. Tomorrow the Sterlings will go to war. I'll see the general as soon as possible with updates. Chong Si just remembered that there had been rumors about the Sterlings intimidating everyone, so she would try and talk about it, but to no avail. She told me to speak with high-ranking Sterlings, but there was no talking when they were not listening. The shock in everyone's eyes. As it was almost a day after the end of the entire Sterling attack. She then proceeded to give all locations of all soldiers as to make sure they were defended against the incoming attack. As the day progressed, many lives were in danger. Chong Si got the troops quickly and made contact with their commanders to defend. As the whole war waged on, everyone had to survive and make it through, as this world was now a war zone with no escape. It's a different world to make things as they were, as so much damage was done with no return, everything was taken away as we had nothing and no one. A world with so little that it would never return was something of a nightmare. I didn't know how to handle it and just thought of all the deaths and all the problems. The new updates with all the attacks were just crazy, and nobody knew what to do. Get down on your knees and apologize. Then, maybe, I'll consider forgiving you this time. Otherwise, I'll show you what real regret feels like. The moment those words left my mouth, a gasp rippled through the crowd. Every breath hitched, and all eyes locked onto me, as if I were a madman. But some started to suspect that there was more to this than met the eye. People had seen those who weren't afraid to die, but they'd never met anyone facing imminent death who was still so arrogant. Lu Zian responded coldly, "Seems like there's nothing more to say." Just then, a phone rang. Lu Zian pulled it out, and her brow immediately furrowed. Unless it was something earth-shattering, no one would dare call this number. She hesitated for a moment, but ultimately answered. The instant she heard the voice on the other end, Lu Zian's mind shattered, and her body froze like a statue. Her hand suddenly went slack, and the phone slipped from her grasp, hitting the ground. Everyone present clearly heard the muffled sound. Those standing behind Lu Zian stared, wide-eyed, at the phone on the ground, unable to comprehend what could cause Lu Zian to lose her composure so completely. Lu Zijiao, sitting in her wheelchair, saw her aunt's rigid stance, and a foreboding premonition rose in her heart. What's wrong? Lu Zian didn't answer. She slowly turned her head to look at me, her eyes as sharp as daggers. "You did this, didn't you?" I offered a slight smile. "I told you I'd show you what true regret is." Lu Zian clenched her fists so tightly that her knuckles cracked. The murderous intent in her eyes flared. Lu Zijiao's panic intensified. What's going on?" Lu Zian took a deep breath, her voice hoarse. "The corporation, it's gone." Lu Zijiao's pupils constricted. She instinctively pulled out her own phone. Just then, a call came in. She took a shaky breath, her fingers trembling as she answered. "Hello. The corporation, it's gone." Lu Zijiao felt her heart stop. She urgently asked, "What happened?" "It was fine before I came here. How could it collapse in less than an hour?" The voice on the other end was shaking. "The corporation's database was attacked. All the data, it's been leaked. You know there are a lot of things that can't be made public. Now, the relevant authorities have started investigating. We can't withstand this." Hearing this, Lu Zijiao's eyes widened. "Impossible. Leaked? We hired top experts to secure it. What did those people do?" The voice on the other end sighed. "They said, the attacker is the world's top hacker. Our firewall was no better than paper to them." Lu Zijiao took a deep breath, cutting him off. "Is there any way to save it?" Silence. Then, the voice cautiously said, "The corporation is definitely bankrupt. Perhaps you could try asking the head of the Lu family to rebuild it." In a fit of extreme anger, Lu Zijiao smashed her phone to the ground. Years of hard work vanished like smoke. No matter how strong her mind was, she couldn't accept it. She turned sharply to me, her eyes filled with murderous intent. Kill him, she shrieked. Kill him for me. Lu Ziyan nodded slightly, looking at me slowly. I wasn't going to kill you at first. But you've crossed the line. I chuckled. Lu Zijiao said the same thing before. How did that work out for her? I broke both her legs. I said calmly, I don't have much patience. Offer your apology now, or I won't mind making you lose a few more things. He glared at me, speaking each word slowly and deliberately. That remains to be seen. Even though the collapse of the Lu family's corporation hurt the family, the Lu family was more than just that. Their true power in Yin City was the Van Bang, the underground organization under their control. I laughed coldly. Since you put it that way, if I don't do anything, wouldn't I be letting you down? With that, I raised my phone to my ear. You can move now. Lu Ziyan's brow furrowed. Lu Zijiao immediately screamed, kill him. Kill him now. This guy is too evil. We can't let him live. Lu Ziyan also felt uneasy. She didn't want to waste any more time. Just as she was about to order an attack, her phone rang again. She and Lu Zijiao held their breaths. Both their eyes immediately shifted to me, filled with fear and unease. I smiled faintly, raising my hand in a gesture of invitation. The unease in their hearts grew even stronger. Lu Ziyan hesitated for a few seconds before bending down, picking up the phone, and pressing the answer button. Boss, something's wrong. Someone suddenly attacked Van Bang headquarters. There are heavy casualties. We don't think we can hold out for much longer. As soon as she heard that, Lu Ziyan's mind shattered. Her body swayed, stumbling back a step. But she quickly forced herself to calm down, gritting her teeth. How many people? More than 10, they're all spec ops. We're no match. How much longer can we hold out? The voice on the other end suddenly trembled. And no, we can't hold out anymore. Before he could finish, a scream came over the phone, followed by a thud as the person on the other end collapsed. But the phone wasn't disconnected. Soon, a deep voice spoke. Tell your boss, mission accomplished. Van Bang has been wiped out. As soon as those words were spoken, Lu Ziyan felt like a hammer had struck her head. Her mind went blank. More than half a lifetime of work had been wiped out in a matter of minutes. Van Bang was destroyed. The Lu family in Yin City had lost its greatest pillar. Lu Ziyan nearly collapsed. Lu Zijiao was also frozen in place. She stared blankly at me, as if looking at a demon. A moment later, she turned to Lu Ziyan, her voice hoarse. If he's not dead, the Lu family will never have peace. Hearing this, Lu Ziyan regained her senses, looking at me, her eyes filled with murderous intent. You're clever. You knew I concentrated all Van Bang's forces here to deal with you. But now, I'll show you that absolute power makes your schemes meaningless. With that, she shouted, everyone. Charge. Kill them all. The people of the Lu family roared in unison, their momentum surging. Lu Fifan trembled with fear, hastily stepping forward. Head of the Lu family. I'm Lu Fifan from the Lu family in Datan. I'm not with this peasant. Lu Ziyan narrowed her eyes. Someone from the Lu family in Diqing. Lu Fifan nodded frantically. Yes. Yes. I'm the grandson of the Lu family's head in Diqing, Lu Fanyong, a rank 3 general. The others faltered. Just as his words were finished, Dasha suddenly stepped forward, and an aura like a tsunami swept over the entire area. He indifferently looked at the people in front of him, saying nothing, but his presence was enough to silence everyone. It felt like he could crush the entire world under his feet. One of the 3 emperors. Sand Emperor Dasha. As soon as Dasha's words left his mouth, 2 terrifying auras erupted in the distance. In a split second, 2 figures appeared in the south and north. The one to the south wore a blue earring. His voice was warm and gentle, but carried a piercing, penetrating quality. One of the 3 emperors. Qin Emperor Di Qin. The one to the north was enveloped in swirling war energy. one of the three emperors. War Emperor Dijon. As soon as those words were spoken, the energy of everyone in the underworld exploded with ferocious intensity. Lu Xian's legs completely gave out. She felt all the energy sucked out of her, collapsing to the ground. The 200-odd people who were just charging toward me were now extremely close, sensing the terrifying aura of these people more clearly than ever before. Their eyes were filled with fear, and their bodies trembled uncontrollably. Not just the people of the Lu family, but also Guyu and Lu Fifan stared at me in shock. As members of a great family in Diqing, they had of course heard of the underworld's reputation. Their families had warned them to never, under any circumstances, provoke someone from the underworld. And now, so many people from the underworld had gathered here. When they had first arrived, they had said that their young master was here. So, who was the young master they were talking about? Thinking this, Guyu's and Lu Fifan's eyes shifted to me. But immediately afterward, both shook their heads slightly. Impossible, how could their young master be him? He's not even 20 years old, and he used to be a convict. But just at that moment, every member of the underworld knelt before me. Their reverent voices rang out, "Welcome, young master." In that moment, Guyu, Lu Fifan, and everyone from the Lu family's minds went completely blank. The space was so silent you could hear a pin drop. But faced with such a shocking scene, I calmly nodded, then slowly raised my head to look at Lu Xian, who was slumped on the ground. "I gave you a chance." My voice was calm, with no discernible emotion. But it was precisely that coldness that made Lu Xian's heart plummet straight to the abyss. She stared at me blankly, finally realizing, the Lu family was truly finished this time. Lu Xijiao shook her head repeatedly, muttering, "Impossible, he's just a kid. He's not even 20 years old. How could he be the young master of the underworld?" At the same time, the 200-odd security guards that the Lu family had hired were looking at me with disbelief. The underworld was a sacred place in the hearts of all martial artists. But never would they have thought that the person in charge was just a young boy. A wave of regret washed over them. The opportunity to join the underworld was already incredibly slim, but now, they defended the one in charge of the underworld. They had slammed that door shut forever. I didn't care about their emotions. I turned to look at Lu Fifan. "I was going to spare you a path to survival. But you insisted on seeking death. So, I'll send you on your way. You said you wanted to marry her? Then you can be a couple of doomed lovebirds together." Hearing this, Lu Fifan's eyes widened. But in a split second, remembering my identity, he forced himself to remain calm. Looking straight at me, he gritted his teeth. No matter how powerful the underworld is, it can only be so in areas outside government control. My uncle is a lieutenant general in the National Army. If you dare touch me, the entire military command won't let you get away with it. I raised my head, glancing at him with cold eyes. My voice was even, but laced with bone-chilling cold. "Then I want to see what the military is going to do when I lay a hand on you." I was just as likely to lay a beating with that statement. Finishing speaking, I tilted my head, ordering, "Do it." As soon as I gave the order, the atmosphere around us instantly changed. A hoarse but commanding voice suddenly rang out, "Let's see who dares." The entire scene froze for a split second. Everyone simultaneously turned to look in the direction of the sound. An old woman wearing a military uniform was walking towards us, alone, each step heavy. The people on the Lu family's side were instantly revitalized. Due to her sensitive position, Lieutenant General Lu Fanqing hadn't revealed herself from the start. She originally intended that if Lu Xian could handle the situation, she wouldn't need to step forward. But she hadn't expected that a mere snot-nosed brat could push the Lu family this far. If she remained silent any longer, she feared that Lu Xian and Lu Xijiao wouldn't be able to keep their lives. Seeing Lu Fanqing, Lu Xian and Lu Xijiao felt like a burden had been lifted, both of them breathing a sigh of relief. But immediately after, thinking about how they had been humiliated by that brat, they both lowered their heads in shame. Lu Xian sighed, revealing an apologetic expression. "Sis, I'm sorry. I'm incompetent. But Lu Fanqing shook her head. It's not your fault. Even this old woman didn't expect that brat to have such a terrifying background. Speaking, her sharp eyes locked onto me. Brat, you're very good. I admit that my sister and daughter aren't your match. Out of respect for me, Lu Fanqing, let today go, and we'll call it even. I looked at her calmly. I already gave you respect yesterday, sparing Lu Xijiao once. As for more respect? Don't mention you. Even if Fengshen stood before me, you can ask him whether he'd dare open his mouth and demand that I give him respect. Hearing me belittle the man she always respected, Fengshen, Lu Fanqing's expression instantly darkened. I acknowledge you have some ability, but don't let a little bit of power go to your head. No matter how good you are, can you surpass the National Army? I raised my eyebrow, looking at her with amusement. The National Army? Someone like you, a mere lieutenant general, dares to claim that you represent the entire army? Lu Fanqing choked, grinding her teeth and shouting, "You're disrespecting a high-ranking general in the army. I have the authority to arrest you and send you to a life sentence in prison, without parole." I chuckled scornfully. If the person I cared about said that, I might actually be charged with disrespecting a superior. But if it was me saying it, that means a superior would easily listen to and understand what the subordinates were saying. Hearing that, Lu Fanqing suddenly froze, her eyes filled with suspicion and wariness as she looked at me. Impersonating a high-ranking member of the military? You have some nerve. I didn't bother responding. I simply glanced at her coldly before raising my hand. A crisp smack rang out. A small, exquisite gold badge had been flung at her face. Lu Fanqing instinctively caught it. When she saw the insignia on it, her pupils immediately constricted, 3 bright stars. The badge that I had casually tossed was actually a 3-star general's badge. It was 2 ranks higher than her. Lu Fanqing clenched the badge, her knuckles bone-white with tension. In that moment, a name that had once been a legend in the army echoed in her head, someone who had been promoted to a 3-star general at just 17 years old. If the person before her was Gu Chen. Her face immediately turned pale. At the same time, the people on the Lu family side also began to feel uneasy. Why was Lu Fanqing so panicked? Could it be that brat was also a member of the military? Moreover, his rank was even higher than Lu Fanqing's? But soon afterward, many shook their heads in denial. Impossible. The underworld was a non-governmental organization that operated in areas outside national territory. Being a member of the underworld was already difficult, but to be the one in charge was even rarer. How could he also be a military general? It wasn't impossible, but to become a high-ranking general in the army, you couldn't just rely on luck. A moment later, Lu Fanqing difficulty raised her head, her voice hoarse. Where did you get this badge? In her heart, there was still a glimmer of hope. Perhaps it wasn't his own. But Lu Fanqing would ultimately be disappointed. I simply looked at her calmly, the corners of my lips slightly upturned in a mocking smile. Lieutenant General Lu, have you been living in peace for too long? This isn't mine, who would dare to show it off so casually? The last glimmer of hope in her heart was crushed by me. In her head, there was only one thought left, it was over. The Lu family was truly finished. According to Chinese military law, Lu Zian and Lu Xijiao had conspired to assassinate a 3-star general. There was no pardon for that. Even if they were handled internally, they would still be imprisoned until their bones rotted. And she, as Lu Xijiao's mother, would naturally be implicated. In a fit of terror, Lu Fanqing's legs suddenly went weak, and she collapsed to the ground before me. The entire hall turned to stone. All eyes, filled with shock, turned to the front. They were seeing Lu Fanqing kneeling. The Lu family felt like they had been struck by lightning. What were they seeing? The seasoned general who had once commanded storms in the army was now kneeling before a brat under 20. What was happening? Could it be that that brat had a military position even higher than Lu Fanqing? But he was only 19 or 20 years old. At the same time, Lu Zian clenched her fists, her heart pounding wildly. She couldn't believe her eyes. The one who had knelt was the most powerful support of the Lu family. Did she really mean what she said? She had a higher rank in the military than your sister. I once thought she was bowing down to show you some respect. Now she understands that it was no accident that she let you kneel the other day, and it wasn't because he was so dominant or because she was doing something sneakily, but also because he indeed had high-level skill. He felt his actions were very foolish. If the situation was not like that, he would not have come to this point. Her family, just like himself, had been too foolish. She's always had a very high opinion of herself, but looking back, was so foolish. At the same time, Lu Fifan, who had been celebrating his decision to withdraw, now stood frozen, like a statue. He stared blankly at Lu Fanqing kneeling, his brain nearly short-circuiting. Everything before his eyes shattered his understanding of the world. Wasn't Lu Fanqing a high-ranking general? How could she be kneeling before some hick from Yun City? Not only was he the head of the underworld, but he was also a rank 3 general in the military? And he was only 19 years old. Not far from him, Gu Yu also stood there, petrified. When he learned that I was the head of the underworld, he was already so shocked that he was about to pass out. What about now? He had to hear Lu Fanqing call me general in front of him. Compared to me, his status as heir to the Gu family was worth less than garbage. Gu Qin was like a sharp blade, sweeping through the Lu family like sweeping through ants. With one move, he had crushed them. And he had dared to tell me to run. What could be more absurd than that? While everyone was sinking into panic, Lu Fanqing raised her head, her eyes filled with deep pleading. Sir, they're all that's left of my family. I beg you, spare them. I kept my face cold, without a single flicker of emotion. I've already said it. Yesterday, I gave you face and spared Lu Xijiao a way out. But she didn't know how to cherish it. Then, don't blame me. This is the ending you chose. It has nothing to do with me. With that, I immediately turned my head to look at the Earth Emperor and the Slaughter Emperor. Once again, I said coldly, make your move. Lu Fanqing's heart constricted in an instant. She hurriedly raised her head to look at me, opening her mouth. Even if you have a higher rank than me, if you kill people here, you're breaking Chinese law. Hearing this, I smiled slightly, my eyes growing even colder as I looked at her. Law? When your daughter wanted to drain my sister's blood, did she ever think about Chinese law? When your sister led people here to kill me today, did she think about national law? If I were just an ordinary person, I would have died long ago. And you, standing in the shadows, watching everything, wouldn't even have bothered to show your face. Now that they've lost, you're coming out to talk to me about the law? Is the law your family's personal plaything? You use it to oppress others when you need it and throw it away like trash when you don't. Those words left Lu Fanqing speechless. But soon after, she took a deep breath, her face full of righteousness. They're them, and you're you. They were just ordinary citizens of China, while you are a high-ranking official in the national army. Every word and action of yours represents the reputation of this entire country. If you don't cross the line, don't even think about touching them. She knew these words could lead to her being accused of opposing a superior officer, but before the lives of her daughter and sister, everything else was insignificant. I simply looked at her in silence, my eyes growing colder and colder. Finally, I said coldly, what if I want to kill them anyway? Lu Fanqing took a deep breath, her eyes still unwavering. Then, I'll report to Fengshen, the Supreme Commander, and let him handle you personally. She knew very well that I was close to the threshold of succeeding to the position of Supreme Commander. As long as I still intended to take that position, I absolutely couldn't afford to make any mistakes. If I really killed people at this time, no matter how reasonable the reason, it would create an extremely negative impact. And why is she mentioning Fengshen instead of the other two Supreme Commanders? Because, among the three, Fengshen had the greatest prestige. More importantly, I had just brazenly declared that even Fengshen wouldn't dare to demand that I give him face. If she conveniently repeated these words in front of Fengshen, then, at least in the short term, I could forget about becoming the Supreme Commander. Thinking this, Lu Fanqing regained some confidence. Her back straightened, her aging but still sharp eyes locked onto me. She waited, waiting for me to change my mind, waiting for me to offer an explanation, that I had only misspoke when talking about Fengshen. But just then, a mocking look suddenly appeared in my eyes. Then, I abruptly turned my head, looking towards a tree not far away. I calmly opened my mouth. Fengshen, have you seen enough? If you have, you can come out now. As soon as those words left my mouth, the surrounding space was immediately silent. Nearly everyone turned their heads to look in the direction I was pointing. In the shocked eyes of everyone, a figure, one filled with military presence, walked out from behind the tree, step by step. Seeing that person, Lu Fanqing's pupils constricted as she subconsciously whispered, "Supreme Commander." But that figure didn't even look at her. He simply smiled at me, his voice gentle. "This kid's got good instincts. I hid so well, but you still found me." The people around were stunned by the way he was talking. It wasn't like he was speaking to a subordinate, but like an elder who doted on his beloved junior. Upon hearing my words, Lu Fanqing's pupils immediately constricted. He dared to use the word lurking when talking about the Supreme Commander? Was he crazy? But just as she thought that Fengshen would immediately scold me for disrespect, Fengshen only coughed lightly, without the slightest intention of pursuing the matter. Then, he turned his head to look at Lu Fanqing. Lu Fanqing, who had just recovered from her shock, immediately stood at attention, raising her hand to salute in military fashion. "Greetings, Supreme Commander." Her voice was loud and clear, filled with respect. Fengshen nodded slightly, but the look in his eyes as he looked at Lu Fanqing was nothing like the gentle look he gave me. His eyes darkened as he looked straight at her, his voice serious. "Unleashing your family to do as they please, and today, even daring to openly defy a superior officer. This isn't the behavior a high-ranking general should have. You're polite in front of me, but in front of him, you dare to be so unreasonable. Lu Fanqing, do you know what you're doing?" Lu Fanqing paused. After a moment, she hurriedly nodded. "Yes, what the Supreme Commander says is entirely correct. I've indeed been lax in managing my family." But immediately after, she changed her tone. "However, even if my family is wrong, their crimes don't warrant death. Even if there is severe punishment, it's not up to General Gu to directly take their lives." I laughed, my eyes as cold as ice. "The crimes don't warrant death? Lieutenant General Liu, have you never heard the phrase an eye for an eye, a life for a life? Or do you feel that because your daughter nearly drained my sister dry, I should be grateful, even celebrate?" Hearing this, Fengshen's eyes darkened again. Lu Fanqing hurriedly spoke. "Jiao only wanted to take some blood to save someone. She didn't intend to kill your sister. Moreover, your sister is still alive." I gave her a cold glare, not in the mood to argue further. I looked directly at Fengshen, saying, "If you want to know whether Lu Jiao intended to drain my sister dry, just check the hospital's cameras. That will be clear." At this point, Lu Fanqing had nothing more to say. She bit her lip, finally taking a step back. "I admit that Jiao was wrong, but what about Xian? I personally heard you order her execution." I must have misheard. I chuckled. "The reason I came here today was because Lu Xian actively invited me to apologize. I didn't mind traveling such a long distance, only hoping to resolve the feud with the Lu family. But I didn't expect that she, the one in control of the entire underground force in Yun City, wouldn't have the slightest intention of apologizing. Instead, she brought more than 200 people, wanting to kill me. If it weren't for my friends happening to be nearby, I'd already be a corpse." Lu Fanqing's face was ashen with anger. She nearly spat blood. "If you really intended to apologize, why did you choose this damned place? You weren't foolish enough to believe that little girl's words. And again, you're a high-ranking general, a black ops. Even if the Lu family pulled their entire force out, they might not have been able to touch a hair on your head. Yet, in your mouth, I nearly managed to kill you? You must have lied as flat as a pancake to be a murder victim. She can get a few extra bodies. She was waiting for to make a move. It was because that Lu Fanqing had been used again. Why did your face get burned out? Just what are all the reasons that everything in you isn't making any sense? Do you think that no one is making any sense? You must have been right. If you kept the power, there must have been another reason. If you had all power for this, what would you do? What I was asking this question. What was that I have to do, what must you do? If that was all for her, then how would this affect them? Can they get all the same things when everything is okay? How could anyone tell which way was the truth again and how to listen? I said I only want my family safe and I want the sterlings to pay. If you are in my way I don't care who you are, you will perish. You must know, as they are safe you must do as you told, that's what you came from. The truth. If something happens, how could she be okay if the answer wasn't the truth? What was the problem that I still couldn't see? What's wrong to be who or what they are? It made everything harder and there must have been something to do for all of this. But what's the answer, what must it be? What must be said? How can you talk if they want everything gone? How does that even get asked? How would that work to ask or even respond? If a plan can't even start, then that plan is what you are asking as the beginning. What is this? Nothing would even need a plan if these things weren't happening. I could see that for sure. It would be over so quick with the next words to say it was going to be a big mistake. But that was what the game was, mistake or truth. Which game was this? Are we talking over and over about things that don't make things even close to working? It didn't seem right. It seems as though there were problems on problems with no end as all. If a family that I want gets the best thing, they need a different story to even allow that. I just needed that. There will be a moment, but it won't be as nice for a story to tell them to make things not like this, and what can be done about it. But she was going to say it, so as she was ready, she tried. She spoke directly to the guards. You did not kill him, but you want me to go too. Why would that ever be an option to do what they want? It made no sense to do what he wants as that wasn't why they're out, so why do it, I said again. As they were ready they all did, or at least tried. As one of the guards pulled out his sword. For family there is no end. For you and our families there never was, you did all that we asked, never lose. For the love and trust we give for free is that our families will be fine. Then tell me why. Why does it hurt so much, why must we make it like this? But he went at her anyways as the game for her was over. The deal done for now, maybe for life. They all knew that. As I began to speak, there was nothing they can do to turn back. There was always time to pay back. As my plan continued I was on my feet again. Now, Vu was utterly stunned as he looked at me. Before, he had thought of himself as the best of his generation, confident he could help me, someone at a disadvantage. But now, I was not only the heir to the underworld and someone who had defeated a high-ranking general, but I had also become the official commander-in-chief of the military. Vu felt utterly insignificant compared to me. He was nothing. If he had known he would have to face this sight, even if his grandfather had beaten him to death, he wouldn't have dared to come here. Lu Fifan was also completely silent. Just now, he hadn't seen the badge I had thrown clearly, thinking at most I was only a 2-star general. But now, hearing Fengshen announce the promotion, he understood that I was someone who could make his entire family tremble with just a glance. Yet, before this, he had dared to think I was just a lowly, contemptible peasant. At the same time, Lu Fanqing had also recovered from her daze. Just a moment ago, she had boldly suggested that I be demoted. Yet now, Fengshen had directly slapped her in the face, promoting me to the peak of power. She turned her head to look at me, her eyes filled with both hatred and bitterness. A brat who wasn't even 20 years old was sitting in a position she had dreamed of her entire life, but hadn't dared to imagine achieving. And once I became the commander-in-chief, unless I committed treason, no one, could force me to resign. Thinking of this, Lu Fanqing nearly couldn't restrain her emotions. She bit her lip, casting aside all restraint. Supreme Commander. Every Supreme Commander represents the will of the military, even the will of the entire nation. If you let foreign countries know that China has promoted someone not even 20 years old to be the commander-in-chief, they'll think we're a weak nation. It could also lead to chaos and a loss of prestige on a global scale. Please, don't treat national affairs like a joke. She spoke rapidly, trying to keep Fengshen from interrupting. But after hearing this, the look in Fengshen's eyes was as if she wanted to sew Lu Fanqing's mouth shut. In her heart, she only wanted to tear Lu Fanqing into pieces and throw her to the dogs. If it wasn't for Lu Fanqing, she would have been successful today in inviting me to be the Supreme Commander. The timing, the reason, the support, everything had been perfect. But thanks to her, the plan she had painstakingly prepared for an entire year had collapsed in an instant. She knew my personality. Once I'd refused, I wouldn't turn back. And this was her third time inviting me. Everything shouldn't be done more than 3 times. After today, she wouldn't have another chance. And once I didn't officially take office, I could withdraw from the military at any time. Fengshen took several deep breaths, struggling to suppress the anger that made her want to blow Lu Fanqing's head off. Then, she coldly called out to a soldier, "From today onwards, Lu Fanqing is demoted to a lieutenant general. Completely forbid any future promotion proposals." Lu Fanqing clenched her fists, her voice trembling. "Supreme Commander, I know that in your eyes, I'm nothing. But I've dedicated my whole life to the military. Even if I don't have merit, I've at least put in the effort. I only ask that you give me one reason. Why are you so lenient with Guqin?" Fengshen gave her a cold glare. "Lenient? Lu Fanqing, it seems that because China has been too peaceful in recent years, you've forgotten what regulations the military has. I could have completely dealt with you according to military regulations." Lu Fanqing's heart constricted. She bit her lip, looking straight at Fengshen, her voice serious. "I accept all punishment. But I still want to know what a brat who isn't even 20 years old is relying on to be promoted to Supreme Commander." Fengshen glanced at her, "Telling you from this point on there had to be no promotion for you. With her current position, you're not qualified to know." Lu Fanqing clenched her fists tighter. She was silent for a few seconds, then her eyes became firm. "If you don't give me a clear explanation today, then I don't need to stay in an army like this anymore." Fengshen laughed coldly. "Good. Then I'll grant your wish." She turned her head to look at the soldier behind her, coldly ordering, "Bring me all the achievements of General Gu from when he joined the army until now." A soldier immediately removed the small screen attached to his arm, quickly operating it. In a few seconds, he reported, "Supreme Commander, the data has been displayed." He handed it over to her to see. When Lu Fanqing saw the first line on the screen, her pupils immediately constricted. "Impossible." She stared wide-eyed at each mission. Every mission was nearly impossible to complete, but I had completed them all perfectly. Each mission slapped her old way of thinking right in the face. The more she looked, the paler her face became. Finally, her mind went completely blank. The data was personally provided by the Supreme Commander. It couldn't possibly be fake. But she really couldn't believe it. How could I have created such miracles? Fengshen looked at her coldly. "Now, do you still think my decision was wrong?" Lu Fanqing shook her head slowly. A feeling of endless regret rose in her heart. Unworthy of my position? What damages the spirit of the veterans? What hurts a good army that never has fear? What a life for her not be able to believe her friend. What had always been here to look what all the hard had ever even done? That she used to put me next to an award didn't amount to even a single cent of these awards. At this moment, she truly understood how wrong she had been. She understood why Fengshen was so angry. If I had the power to bring the good people back, I would have done just that. My bad for that. I was only staying in the military because of an old friendship. Once I was truly disappointed, I could leave at any time. And at that time, the consequences the military had to bear would be irreparable. Remembering that she had suggested demoting me because of some petty jealousy, Lu Fanqing only wanted to slap herself. Fengshen didn't look at her again. She turned to look at me, her voice solemn. Gu Chen, I'm still saving the position of Supreme Commander for you. As long as you nod your head, that position will immediately be yours. I smiled slightly. For the first time, a touch of warmth appeared in my eyes. I've gotten news of the person I love. I'll deal with the Supreme Commander thing after I find her. Thinking of that tower, a longing flashed in my eyes. Fengshen was taken aback, but immediately after, her face lit up with joy. From my words, she understood that when I found that person, I would agree to become the Supreme Commander. So, with my abilities, as long as that person was still alive, I would definitely find her. Meaning that my promotion was only a matter of time. Fengshen was so happy that she was about to lose control. Struggling to suppress her emotions, she asked me, "Do you have any clues about her?" She is so wonderful, I won't lie again. That I would put what she said over anything, and she knows that from my heart. It's what I get to do. I was really thinking about it and knew everything would come back and what was what. I'm not hiding anything. I knew not that it was more of what it would mean to do this again and what it would become. I might as well not keep talking so that everyone knows as long as the thing you say is a good job, then everyone will be fine. Everything to get back, but all that would be had would be what it would get all along. And for what to never try something you never had. Adding that, it might even become what you wouldn't like anymore. To hear everyone's story from now on in the military, as nothing will be a secret to what I do, so that's all fine for me, but to ask my loved one, I wouldn't want to ever hurt that. If I can, I want to make the right choice. If I did something and didn't come back to them, then who does? Thinking again, I can make a person do all things, but if my people did, then what was I? Someone that had no love or trust. It's not to let it happen. I did not do things to ever hurt these families again. Thinking, what would the old me do and how would it make that work? It never will, because I know now. There might end up that I love things what she has, who knows? What you could see as now as the next thing, what would it even be? What I like won't work, and what makes things okay, I was the most afraid of that. It might even work to what I want, what has to be, and what works the best too. If everyone does, then what would not ever work? Adding on, I am on my way to not try to have anything in what happens. It seems that it will become to more of what I'm supposed to do. What is that you think is going to be a way to make all this go forward? I was asked. What has to go well, and what must you have from me if you wanted all of this to go forward? What plan do you have for me now to allow all to never turn back? Maybe I just want that answer, what you might say to me. I don't want it to end up bad. The best option to live the best life is to trust in the ones to trust, because how else would that plan even work? You do have the choice. A world of love is what has to be said, so trust is made. What is it you're going to tell to others as you live life with love? What must be said to the ones who are listening? There is a story to what makes everyone want to fight, so that you're here, but why do you want to keep fighting if it was what you're looking for? Was I not looking for that, and only to keep everyone else okay? Was that all there was? As I listened more, I began to make my next plans. Are you still going, as it might hurt too bad? A good person asked. But I still must find this person. What has to work, will. It's not a thing that I will forget. It might what you must do, what you wouldn't be. I can say this will hurt so bad what I'm about to deal with, but that's what has to be. I began to go. I can feel it in my chest and bones, to help, but I will never be there. That hurts. The only answer that might even exist is, it will be all done. You might have only been the one to go, and what then? This is all done by trust, and this might be the way to end all that is. So, what is that to be a love and trust again, because it isn't for so many to even like what is. It's not only in you, as you will show them what's left to do again as the new leader now, to never stop what could help. To make a stand, and for the words and love they cannot have again. As love that is lost, it is not the love that goes. And as I spoke, the past may end, just remember us then. I began to keep going. It may be at the D-City Academy. The D-City Academy? And because that isn't okay, to be closer and to listen what maybe I will just come back as a student because it isn't only what I see but what is that you want as a group what matters, I was adding and made it clear. At this time, Tuong Tu Kai asked, Young master, do you want to use your identity as a student to enter the D-City Academy? I asked back, is there a problem with that? Tuong Tu Kai hurriedly shook his head, his eyes showing a complex expression. No, there isn't. 3 days ago, your name was finally entered to be a student at this city. He said, you will also be in a city that is not too known. He had just received an official order. He will be in charge of training the new students during the upcoming 10-day military training. In other words, you will be a new student under his training. What can you expect from all of this? Fengshen didn't pay attention to the twisted expression on Tuong Tu Kai's face. She nodded immediately. Good. I'll have someone arrange it. With that, she ordered Lu Zian and the others to be escorted to the Yunqing military prison, then left. After everyone left, the small screen on Dekam's arm flickered slightly. He bowed his head to examine it, his expression immediately turning serious. Boss, there's new information. The Qin family in Yunqing just discovered traces of your beloved. I'm keeping her under watch. Dekam continued, the youngest daughter of the Qin family, Qin Wanner, has always been the school beauty. But recently, she suddenly changed her personality and is especially similar to the characteristics you've described. This is a photo of her. He handed his phone to me. On the screen was a girl of about 20 years old, her skin as white and smooth as porcelain, her face as delicate as a doll. Her entire being radiated a pure, untainted aura. I was stunned because the eyes in the photo were exactly like the eyes of my beloved, the one I'd been seeing everywhere. I took a deep breath, trying to remain calm. Then, I turned to face Di Sha, instructing, head to the Qin family. Now. At the same time, my mother was sitting in front of the transaction counter at the Xinqi Bank. Inside the counter, the bank teller, who had been indifferent, suddenly widened his eyes, staring at the computer screen. Because on it was the account balance, 1,234,597,800 yuan. 10 digits. 1,340,000. He immediately gasped, and his heart started pounding wildly. In his 3 years as a banker, he had never seen anyone so rich. Struggling to steady his emotions, he glanced at my mother. But the woman had no trace of the presence a rich person would have. Greed immediately rose in his eyes. 1,200,000,000. Even if he could only get 1/10 of it, it would be enough to live on for the rest of his life. He quickly suppressed his agitation, his eyes narrowing. Where did you get this card? My mother replied without hesitation, my son gave it to me. Hearing this, the teller's expression immediately turned cold. How old is your son? What does he do? My mother frowned. What does that have to do with me withdrawing money? The teller's face grew colder. You have to clarify the source of this card today. The receptionist who had led my mother into the bank earlier heard this and startled. She quickly looked toward the teller, gesturing with her eyes, asking what was happening. The teller nodded slightly, then held up the number 10. The girl took a deep, cold breath, her expression immediately changing. She looked at my mother with suspicion and scrutiny. Where did this card come from? Is it yours, or your son's? Did you earn it, or steal it? Being pressed by the two of them, my mother reached out to take back the card on the card reader. I'm just withdrawing money. You two are acting like I'm a criminal. Inside a cell in the Yunqing supervision office, my mother was handcuffed, sitting on an interrogation chair. Facing her were 3 people, the female receptionist, the bank teller, and a plump middle-aged woman, Deputy Chief Wang of the supervision office. Deputy Chief Wang threw a piece of paper on the table in front of my mother, her voice as cold as steel. Confession already prepared. Sign it. Mom looked at the 3 people who had forcibly brought her here and were now forcing her to confess. Her voice was trembling. That card wasn't stolen. Deputy Chief Wang scoffed. Not stolen? Do you know how much money is on that card? Looking at the ragged clothes on her body, she was no different from a poor person from the slums. And her son? He had been in prison in Yunqing and had just been released yesterday. You dare to say that a prisoner like that could have 10 billion in his account? My mother paused, her eyes filled with terror. 10 billion? It was like a bomb exploding in her head. She didn't expect that card to have so much. The female receptionist snorted coldly. As long as you admit you stole the bank card and hand it over to our supervision office, we won't pursue your son's actions. Deputy Chief Wang nodded. If you sign the confession, we'll reduce the charges. If you don't sign, you won't have peace, and your son will definitely die. Choose. Confess and get a reduced sentence, or have both mother and son die. Mom gritted her teeth. On what basis are you concluding that I stole it? I don't know how much money is in it, but I know my son isn't the type to steal. My mother wasn't stupid. If her son really had stolen 10 billion, how could he still be free and outside the law? Why hadn't the bank reported the loss? Deputy Chief Wang growled. I'll give you one last minute. If you don't sign, I'll immediately have people drag your son here. At that time, neither you nor your son will escape. You can get a reduced sentence or kill the two of you to begin with. I want my freedom, I haven't had much of it yet. The choice was obvious. We're doing whatever you want, so don't worry. A voice entered. What she had was an insult. Her hands could never do the same actions as she once did. What about that? What happens when someone says that, and what's that to someone who cares what she did? It never hurts, this is just what it is and will remain. There's nothing that I know what they did, so trust again must be made. If you say as you are saying, what are we here to even make okay? What did they do, and how would you even make what comes next? The trust, one would say again, wasn't to put those people through this, but that was who and made trust with me. If you said no but yes at the same time, and what then? Why is there nothing when the only thing to say is? What did you think of her? She isn't a person with no hope, and now what must we do? To make hope, you need to trust. What happened, what you must. The truth is the choice, what happened, what now, or what happens later, it never changed. Trust is what must be. Why must you think back what could get back, and for what must happen? It just never works. A world without those thoughts must be easy. The choice must be all about who she would be, and if not, then nothing. Are you safe? Said the most important that cares, that would never end. So never listen when she doesn't, and it will happen. What is the next step, as I know you never ever can say. What could make life okay if you must lose your life, so is it just that? What could she say? There needs to be something. I started to remember that there are things that help, and there will be moments so all is done. To say, what if all could never be like it was, and if you had to do it, what would you know about what happened to save her? That's what I'm thinking about, and I've never been lost. I must keep all going for her, and so what must stay? Why must I ask these things? Why would nobody care again? I said what was going on over and over as well. I was starting to get ready to go. I started to tell everyone what might happen, as it was all that I had. What was that? It was what you've said, and what must I do in order? Was it to even work? It will go, it has to, and it might. Nothing must stop what is going to begin. I walked to all the places one by one with everyone that loved each other on this journey, and was getting what needs to never has to be gone, and for that moment with the others who were at the spot was over, and now to the bank. When I got there with the team, there were 4 other team members waiting for me at the side to keep as low what's going on down. With the things to do, there was never as you must do it, you have to go there, and be at it. What was never to begin, as now there were too many to go forward. We had to push one and get to the doors. Okay, do it. They got the 1 guards at the door. Next, we saw everything clear and started to move. It was quick but hard, as they already knew we were coming. As we opened the door, the plan was all the same as keep them from my mother. As everything was a slow-motion film to all that came up, never. My people were doing the dance. What hurt to me so badly? That I can't even touch them, they're only to protect. What had to do I was, that I can never touch, or never know. It hurt my heart as I went forth. I walked forward as all was going slow, as I saw this person that I could not ever tell and started to hear them. How they're not what you think they are. It felt too close as to what I had to go to. This hurt was going to never be all. So with that I was hit but kept it all on. I must remember what to feel or what this means so that none get what is a bad life because there is so much good that I never must change this at all. I got the pain right there and never forgot to get her out. As quick as anything happened, all that ever matters was never to turn to those that never were important at all, or never let what doesn't have to be, is. So everything started as she said so many times, don't give up so I won't. What was next? What could there be so that I can live on? There was never one. I can't lose or get lost as she has always told me, I have to keep going, for her. To know it was okay, with all people to make, with my name. To have what they want, just remember you have to live what you did, so remember me, but remember, keep going for you. With all I have I can tell that if people what to ask, to go, never forget those that what good is never, to always come back to yourself. It did end all over again as what was going to start all around. If something never works you just have to keep going because there will be a next day to go. She gets to say more than me for sure, but it had to be this way. I never want them to lose anything they can't get back. Just to know what I can live without you might find the choice is what you were meant to be. It never feels it can and the rest has to come with that is now what. But to get what is it what had to be as what I must do is never forget so many had also give it back. What will be good if everyone has it good, what a journey to say that this world can have it for love and not for what would come after. What can you tell the world so that you leave it like this? To know that it goes for now. Is what's going to work as long to say I must not die. And must return to what is home. You get all that has to be made. I remember thinking and said. A home to go where what it must have to be and to say it and to help is why. To say why, is to love and to trust what can only come from you, love is the home. Remember the hurt but always come back. I can hear someone calling but I must know to give the love and get back to me. With all I had to remember the faces. I turned my phone on. What was playing? I am getting all their information as well as those faces so that if they are close or just walking around. I am getting what they need. This is what all I got right now. It will be the way for what has to be there for long. I looked again for what was on all the places. The bank said, there's nothing to see here, all the workers are okay and we have the money back, it will be okay. Why say this, why tell so little? Was it even her? The next time with this person or with these people will it even end what must it is? Why is it like you can't be too open but too closed what has to be done? I then said to her on the ride, what has to be said as I might never see you again. I was asking what you think I must say for now and later. I know you have no answer what has to be asked to even see as a plan as well, but I am not sure I what to say. What's must? It doesn't need to said to say, be yourself. But must say what's has to mean to make you come back. What can tell now so that you want to find me if you get lost? Or just what must you have? If there was anything what would you wish for? Must say what for you you're the most afraid of, but you can't. What does someone what if what wasn't supposed to leave you're all that is left? Say. You. Can't leave. I can never hear you with this must be all that I know as well so you said. I was then lost. I only said be safe with as much with everything with my whole life and I did. I would come for her. What I did I said and that was that. All to me was a lie that she had to do and no I must go. I know theirs is not easy and never. So if that has never to see that to be lost as all can be. You cannot stay because there will never you or that for only then to make a life. I will trust one won't listen and only must listen what must find. But then I found out what was only to be all to go. I got it as I had the people in too. She did not want me there and the new people would never find. I was going to give what was meant to get her. You will what never should never be with a name, all will remember always will have and never lose. Then what does it matter? So to then I had to go. I took all to not let that never happen again. But what about me? I always lose to me to never have this and to be free. I can't live with the loss to not be with me. It kills to never be with me, but I must live. The new will. All to what must get done, all never will. The never to be and the name to never use. All with me, all. A home that will say. Home. All for you, and never I see that again. What I need I gave, and what had to be done never will, for all because they lived me, love. I never have to live the pain, for that must live. All because it will work, I got that from them forever. Because what had to make it there with love, because forever is lost and all is done for those whom never I trust. Because there is more to never lose if trust is all what you are, and there's what must never had. Therewith all you gave the lost can never get back and is over, so for love is why for the people you trust you're never let hurt. That will all be with you forever. That is the truth. They're lost and will I went I will. As those who made the stand, so with that. I only walked home and saw the car and started all the home for everything to get started. I called as I got closer to my house. What now do you need? What to do? What it always ends and gets put to start from now, a team member said. Where will there go where there's all to do? As if what you're saying you say will work. I don't think there will be a journey. I know this, but it feels like you will die for sure. I felt that way and I heard the call. But still there are tears. Even if I do get back everything, but still tears. Nothing will always be that way, I'm sure. What must I ask? What now must become when I did all? But can I live if one comes again for what I'm doing, so they cannot feel this? But if all never were to feel what they must, it can to find you. What if someone could steal the thing they were made for? What then? It must make it okay. That's all. Even the lost can find what makes them okay. Never the heart or soul. But a way. Nothing must go to be hurt, not for anyone, never. I will make it work. What must change to make sure I never stop? I won't hurt. Not for you, can you find a way? Not to me. Not ever, for what happens you come first, I did that. Not to ever stop the love. What I hear now I understand, so nothing to look back at. We must find her, what she is, it will all be as that. Why, if it's too long to ever find what is to see as she is safe? Well, I'll be a day. For that now to be me, or if that now may be as one now must come. That was what I needed to never lose. I kept moving forward and all that had to get told I said and never stopped. Here you know never is the name again, what must make for your name again. If only all the time would be, for that is what it has to see. All is that if you live there might be, and now what is for she, be. With that I never can turn away. She had to go, never will to be, or if she does never she. I knew she must do. So let's begin. Now what all to do? There is so much now that must get done. It must live. With that all started again. Now just to wait. Said all that ever was. With all I live forever in the name of her. Is all I remember.